What's up, everybody? KG here, coming at you today with another exciting, educational, deep dive stream with a galaxy brained crypto engineer. We've had him on the channel before. Last time we were here, we talked a lot about the ecosystem he created, the Maximus ecosystem, which is a derivative of the Hex ecosystem. So that may come up in conversation today. But the point of this stream today is to deep dive into some of the new things the Maximus team or the founder of that ecosystem have created. We're going to get into ERC-404s and their ERC-404, which is Gophers, a good old-fashioned unregistered security. We're going to get into a new protocol that they just launched, Pool Party, which is a way to pull together your hex stakes. And I'm sure it's a little more in-depth than that, but we're going to let him explain. And there's something new that just came out with the Gophers ecosystem, which is Hotel Gopherfornia. So we're going to learn a little bit about that today. I'm going to play a quick little 10-second intro, and when we come back, I'm going to introduce my friend DipCatcher or Tokenomics. Be right back.
Got my own keys and my own coin. Gotta protect this money. Took too long for me to get it. Can't let them take this from me.
DipCatcher.
Hey, how's it going?
Good,
Thanks
man.
for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Back again. I'm trying to remember, when was the last time that we did this?
Oh,
it's had to have been in like 2022, right?
Oh, yeah. It must have been a year at least.
Feels like so long, like that time. It's like, on one hand, it feels like so long ago. On the other hand, it feels like yesterday that the early days of the bear market, everything was different back then.
Yeah. And I think you had just launched the perpetuals. I think like that was the new thing you were working on then, which like didn't base. Yeah. Hasn't that already gone through its first cycle?
Yeah. So that must have been in September, October of 2022, because base, which is the 1 year stake, ended in October this past in October 2023. So that was the first cycle. So yeah, that was must have been October, September of 2022.
Dude, and congratulations on that. Your creation has fulfilled its purpose. That's pretty dang cool, man.
Yeah, I was pretty excited, even though like it was entirely clear that everything was going to go smooth. Like there was a ton of like testing, like hard hat testing to prove it, and there was just testnet stuff that, there's always, you always like to see it in real life, and so it was nice to see everything with that first stake cycle go through. And it's been pretty awesome to watch. Someone in the community made a site called lookintomaxi.com, and there's a lot of really rich data about all the different stake pools and their different premiums and discounts and how much they're earning. And so that's been really cool to just watch unfold and just kind of see how the market prices in these staked hex pools.
Yeah, that shout out to Hex Jita, I think, on that one. That site is, I mean, man, if every crypto project had a site like that, dude, that was awesome.
He's good, and he just learned how to build websites with ChatGPT recently.
Wow.
So he's on a very strong trajectory so far.
Good for him. Shout out Hex Jita. If you haven't been there, look into maxi.com. Great data rich site. More data than you probably know what to do with, but it's there and it's cool. So
yeah, a lot of really good insights from that. But yeah, that's and since then, I think since we've been on last, just so much is, a whole lot of different products and just different things going on in the PulseChain ecosystem. It's awesome to get back on.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get your takes on some of that as well. And let's do a quick shout out to the chat. We got MFS, Brisology, Alsamac, Fast Abdul. Hey, thanks for the haircut. Yep, decided to cut it off. Mac Leod, J Everything, Time Pass, welcome in. Yeah, so I guess before we deep dive into the things that I said in the intro, what what's your overall thoughts, feelings, sentiments on PulseChain, Ethereum, crypto in general? How you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this bear market was like compared to, I guess, the first bear market that I really experienced was the 2017, like 2018, 2019 bear market. And I'd say that it feels like back then it felt like crypto could have gone away,
Mm,
but at this cycle, I never felt that. Like it felt like it only became stronger. I think that the kind of other bad things that had happened related to this bear market were probably worse than the bad things that had happened in the 2018 bear market, like with just kind of that big credit collapse across all the different, those different lending platforms and yield platforms and hedge funds, and it all just kind of came crumbling down together. So I'd say that like the bad stuff was worse, but it never felt like crypto was going away.
mm,
And I actually think it's probably for the better that PulseChain didn't launch during the fallout from all that. Because if you remember, the PulseChain they said it was going to launch early May of 2022. That was right around the time that Luna collapsed. And I think that if PulseChain had launched then, the kind of initial PulseChain bear market that we kind of sat through, uh, I think that would have been way worse, and
mm,
it may have been not irrecoverable, but if you had a lot of people that were deep underwater, that turns into a lot of overhead sell pressure, and so I think it just would have been a lot tougher to turn around. And so I think that the delay, kind of letting people, sit through all that, not experiencing it on a price chart, and then launching in May of 2023. I actually think that may have um, boosted the prospects of PulseChain. And then, I think that PulseChain on its own has had its own little bear cycle, just between like the delay and, people whose cost basis was quite high because they had sacrificed Hex, which was really high in order to get PulseChain. They're still sitting on, gains from that initial investment. And so they're fine selling almost at any price. And then combine that with just some of the kind of like news related things with the court case and all that. But I think that, those things, it's like, and I did a stream with RH Max at the end of the year. It's right around New Year. And we were talking, we were like, what's like the bullish thing for PulseChain now? It's like, it's really that like all the really bearish things have already happened. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing, is that we're kind of maybe not out of the woods in terms of what people want on the price chart, but at least the things that are really bearish are perhaps already priced in. So I think that it's kind of, it's good to kind of have its own natural cycle. And I think even since PulseChain launched, there have been about maybe like, I'd say like, I don't know if you can call this Gopher stuff like a full-on like little mini bull cycle, but there have been these like little isolated bull cycles in different pockets of PulseChain. With time, you've seen that kind of have its own bull cycle. You've seen like the PDI and Atropa kind of ecosystem have its bull cycle. So there have been kind of these little pockets that have performed really well within the ecosystem, and so there's always a bull cycle somewhere. And so I think that we're seeing that in PulseChain. You see it in other chains too. So I think that because there's that, like, because there is continued times of opportunity, like that's really like the most you can ask for out of a chain, is that like there's opportunity there.
mm.
There's no if there was no perceived opportunity on PulseChain, that would be the worst thing possible. Like chains die when there's no perceived opportunity there. But the fact that there have been like new narratives and new sources of opportunity, that's a really positive thing.
Well said on that last part there, especially. The perceived opportunity is so important because, okay, maybe PLS itself isn't doing the major X's that we all think it can do right now, But like you said, there's all these little bull markets within the ecosystem. And now, yeah, so we saw, Pulse had that run up in the beginning and then it tanked, SEC FUD, I guess. And then now it's kind of found the sack price floor, which I think is actually really healthy and positive thing that it's maintaining that stable floor. But meanwhile, we have the foundation on a stable floor, and then you have these pockets of bulls. I think that's a really good place to be. I mean, obviously, we all want 100,000 X, of course, but I mean, there are hundreds of X's happening all over PulseChain.
Mm-hmm.
So well said on that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say that I think that another catalyst I think has been the sacrifice funds bridging in, because that really hadn't happened up until recently.
Yeah,
and so I think that things like that, like kind of things outside of like the stuff happening like in the ecosystem, just big things like that, I think give a lot of people confidence, and I think that just seeing that all unfold has been pretty positive.
Yeah, the bridging in of the sacrifice funds, what I would say was a bullish event, or at least the community took it that way, because I think maybe that was the catalyst event that really brought us up from the, I guess, what was the 404, 405 range up now into the 301. We fluctuate between 301 and 3014. So, I mean, I guess that showed confidence. It showed people got bullish on the what could happen type thing,
Yeah. Well, and I think that maybe that was like the timing of it. It was a little different because that actually wasn't the first time the sacrifice funds had been injected into the ecosystem. It actually happened right away. Like during the PulseX sacrifice, you could see some REN BTC that was minted from one of the PulseX sacrifice wallets. It had sold the REN BTC for something like $3 or $4 million of USDC. And then it put that USDC in a liquidity position that was in between, I think, 3 and 6 cents. So there's like a big buy side position down there. And the price is actually traded through a number of times. I think by now it's like passed through that range like 5 or 6 times. But that position is actually sitting on pretty substantial losses right now. And I think that maybe that might have been a learning experience for whomever controls the sacrifice, or whoever's in that decision. Could be one person, could be a group of people, who knows who's actually deciding on that allocation. I think that maybe that was a learning experience where perhaps they were trying to make a bottom. And if you try to force a bottom, it may not be the real bottom, and it may actually make things worse. And there's, by now kind of substantial losses on that position. And so, whereas the funds started being reinjected, not when the bottom, like it didn't try to make the bottom. It's like once the market kind of naturally found its bottom, then it was introduced. So I think the strategy around that, the introduction of sacrifice funds into the ecosystem, I think, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think that maybe they learned something from that first time that it was done, where they're like, okay, it probably isn't, there's too much risk to try to, catch the falling knife. It's better to wait for some type of confirmation and then deploy, because then the effect of those funds is a lot greater than if you're like absorbing massive amounts of downward pressure. It's like if instead you're kind of catapulting up something, like you're capturing momentum that's already existing and amplifying it. I think that the impact of those funds, like per dollar, is greater that way.
I actually didn't know about that event. That's very interesting. And so you're saying that buy wall on Hex on Ethereum, there is still a position in that range.
Yeah. So now it's actually Hex, because price is below it. There's like
I
couple
see.
million. Yeah. So which I'd have to check now. Last time I looked, it was still there. I haven't looked in a couple months. And so that BankX sell wall is really not the only large like multi-million-dollar V3 position sitting there. There's actually one sitting there from the,
Interesting.
and so it's you know, and there are other liquidity positions put there. Like there was a bunch of USDC put in at one point, and then it just sat there, and then it never got hit, and then it got pulled and then sent through Tornado Cash. And so there was some movement around some of the like the liquidity, but usually in that like very low range. And but yeah, so that's some of the new, and I guess while we're talking fun facts about Sacrifice,
Let's talk about them.
a couple days before the whole Luna collapse, the Sacrifice address got a bunch of UST, the Luna stablecoin, and it just dumped it all.
Wow.
And that may have been a contributing factor to Luna losing its peg, was that because like I think that in their whole thinking around how their stablecoin was going to maintain its value, they probably assumed that like no one would just be like dumping the price below some threshold, because you can always like, because technically like how it was designed, you could always wait a little bit and then you could just sell it at the dollar peg. So I don't think they assumed that people would eat a bunch of slippage and be selling for less than $1. But if you're the Sacrifice address, like, selling a couple $1 million of UST when that's, less than 1% of the total funds that you have, like, that's sweat off your ass. Like, you don't care. That's
right.
And so I think that, and I know that there are other large sellers and other things going, people actually attacking the chart. But that was one of a handful of large sellers was actually a Sacrifice address. So the whole Luna thing could have been contributed to by the Sacrifice address.
Wow. Dude, what I'm going to need from you when you get the time in your life is I'm going to need a book or something. Like, how Nostradamus had his predictions. I'm going to need like DipCatcher's fun facts about PulseChain and Hex and the Ethereum address or the Sacrifice address. Because, dude, I've learned a lot from you actually about all these cool moves on chain. And you just told me some that after following what you've said in the past, I didn't know these things. I think that it would be cool to have a collection of all these little fun facts in your busy time, in your busy life. You ever get inspired?
I mean, there's so much. It's like there's this is like a never-ending movie we got going on here. Like there's always something. And that to me is, regardless of anything happening on the price, the fact that there's still like there's like a compelling narrative around all this stuff, like that can take things through a bear market. That's
sure. So okay, so let's transition here into, I want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing. So I think a good place to start is, since we already have all the context of the Maximus ecosystem and Hex, before we transition to Gophers, tell me about Pool Party. Tell me about what it is. Let's assume the audience already knows Hex, so we don't have to set the Hex foundation. We're going to assume you understand Hex. If you don't, there's a lot of great videos. Drop a comment. We'll get you the information. But we know Hex. Tell me about Pool Party.
Yeah, so Pool Party is a Hex stake pooling platform where anybody can organize their own Hex stake pools. So in 2022, we rolled out about 5 different stake pools, pooled about 1 billion Hex, got tens of thousands, I think something like 40,000 plus T-shares. I'll have to look. I can't recall the exact number. And across 5 pools, about 10,000 users were in these pools. And so the benefit of the stake pools primarily is the end stake gas fee. Ending stake for long stakes is just really expensive. Only 2 end stakes for a max length stake can fit on a single block on both Ethereum and PulseChain. So even though the gas fees right now on PulseChain are low, if we think that PulseChain is going to go up in price, and we think that there's going to be other other applications that demand a lot of block space on PulseChain, so different trading applications or NFT stuff or really anything, then the gas for ending stake, even on PulseChain, could be substantial as the stakes get longer. It is already substantial on Ethereum. And so the stake pools, instead of everybody paying gas to end the stake on their own, we just consolidate everyone into a handful of stakes. And so from a user's perspective, you actually don't even have to pay anything to end the stake. As long as someone ends it, the stake ends. And with the base stake, which is the first 1 year stake that ended, someone called Hex Payday actually created a contract that bundles end stakes into a same block, and it actually adds another layer of gas savings to that. So no one in the base stake even paid, someone else paid to end that stake. And so from a user's perspective, you get to stake without any fees, which is really awesome. And then also another benefit is that you have liquidity on your coins, because the way you join these stake pools is you deposit Hex, and then you mint 1 pool token per Hex you deposit, and that token is fully liquid. And then when the stake ends, it's redeemable for its principal plus its yield. And with the pool party, it's redeemable for the hedron and the COM that it earns. So when you're when you join these pools, you get the benefit of 100% gas fee savings, and you can transfer your coin, you can sell it, you can split it up amongst wallets, you can do whatever with it, and then you can redeem it at the end. So those are the Hex stake pools. And Pool Party is a platform for people to launch their own Hex stake pools. We've done 5 of ours on our own. It's a lot of fun. Like, honestly, just the act of kind of branding the pool and kind of organizing the launch is actually a really fun experience. And we thought that would be something that would be awesome to share with people. And it would give people like an opportunity to apply their own narratives and apply their own, kind of messaging around this stuff. And so that was why we launched Pool Party, is kind of an extension of the stake pools that we had launched last year. And then so Pool Party, it's something that we found to be successful with the launch of our own stake pools, is that there was a token related to it called Team, and Team earns a little bit of yield from all of the stake pools, and it has some other sources of yield as well through the staking, and that as because if it was just myself and Golkey promoting the pools, maybe we can't reach as many people, or maybe it kind of falls on 2 people to do it. So we wanted to include some type of kind of marketing engine for these pools to continue to promote the growth of the Hex stake pooling ecosystem. And so we found that to be really effective in Team. We had 1 billion Hex pooled from between 5 stakes, and so we wanted to kind of build upon that concept of like a community owned and community incentivized Hex stake pooling promotion system. And so we took a lot of what we learned from the Team system in terms of how the rewards are allocated and like the schedule that goes on, and just some of the dynamics of Team, and we kind of built upon that with Party. So Team is like a 1 year stake cycle where you have to stake for a full year, and then you earn their income from that year. Whereas Party, it's actually a much shorter period where it's 2 weeks. And so different schedule to kind of span that difference. And then Party, you earn, there's a 0.5% upfront platform fee for Hex staked through the platform, and that gets distributed amongst liquid Party holders. And so you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to stake. You don't have to do anything. You just, if you're included in the snapshot that happens every 2 weeks, you get that, your cut of that Hex. And then when the stakes end, it actually gets the COM referral. There's like a referral bonus in the COM minting. And so Party's the referrer. And so Party holders get some COM at the end too. And so Party, you can either hold your coins liquid just in your wallet, and then you earn Hex and COM, or you can stake your Party. And when you're staked, you're not earning those Hex and COM rewards, but you're earning more Party. So there's kind of 2 different ways that you can kind of compound your position. It's either just holding your coins liquid or staking your Party and earning more Party. And so that's the So that's kind of the growth incentive for Party to grow these pools, because the larger the pools, the more stake pools that happen, more hex that get staked, the larger their earnings, and so we'll, that's really the design intention of Party. And then there's kind of some other layers to put, like outside of the hex stake pooling aspect of Party, that I think are pretty interesting. One is that there's all of the Party supply. It was created through an airdrop to basically the users of different products that we've launched over the last couple of years. And so, and the amount you got was really based on the amount of risk that you took on from those things. Because some of the assets like Base are very low risk. Like there's basically no risk at all from, minting a coin that's backed by a 1-year hex stake. Like there's barely any risk involved in that. Whereas some of our other things like a coin called Polywater, which was related to the Hedron stake pool and HSI auction thing. Those people took on a lot of risk and they didn't get anything from it. It was like truly like a collectible token. And so those people were rewarded heavily. The people that had claimed they're called ticker name NFTs ahead of time, they were rewarded heavily. And then Gophers was included in that because there's a lot of risk involved in that first week of buying Gophers. And so the people who held team, they got a pretty substantial airdrop as well. So based on the amount of risk that you took on was how that airdrop happened. So that was the initial supplies. Like there's the airdrop, and then a copy of the airdrop was put into something called a liquidity fund, and then that's just in a V3 liquidity pool. So that was how like the supply was issued, and then there's these, like one of the other use cases for the Party token is its use in they're called the name tag NFT auctions. And so the name tags are used as almost like a name registrar for the hex stake pools, just so all the stakes in the platform launch from a unique name. And so the stake pool deployer, it requires you to have one of these name tag NFTs that you basically stick on the stake pool, and it's there forever. So if you want to verify that, it's like an official pool, you can look for that and look for that NFT in the pool contract. And so those were like a way to just ensure unique names across all the pools in the platform, so there's no confusion. But also I think they could be, just fun collectibles too, because they're basically NFTs they're loosely related to a photo that has a word on it, but on chain they're actually immutable and entirely connected to a unique word. And so we've already seen about $20,000 worth of Party burnt in these auctions, because the highest bid in the Party or these name tag auctions is burnt. So a couple different dynamics going on in the Party ecosystem. And so far we've seen a couple million hex pooled in the first week. I think something like 16 hex stake pools have been started. And we're starting to see that activity pick up more and more every day.
Okay. Lot to unpack there. I got some questions. Okay. So I want to take it back to one of the first things you said, and looking for a simple clarification point, because one thing that I hear a lot of confusion about in the PulseChain ecosystem is that PulseChain solved the Ethereum gas problem, whereas PulseChain fees will be low forever. My understanding of that is, if we think PulseChain is going to be as successful as we think PulseChain is going to be, then we're going to encounter the same exact gas problem that Ethereum has. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, I think that, not that I think it's that they're the only difference in PulseChain in terms of its capacity is that the transactions happen about like 20%. The blocks happen about 20% more frequently, but there's really not any added like block capacity other than that. So that is like an incremental decrease. The main reason why the activity or the fees are lower today is that there's just a fraction of the amount of users and a fraction of the amount of applications where users are willing to pay really high gas fees for it. So a lot of that comes from because Ethereum has, I think by now there's billions of dollars of DeFi activity and trading that go on. There's a lot of room for the arbitrage and that miner extracted value concept. And so that is a very high consumer of gas on its own. And just all the trading and activity that happens. There's dozens of different types of decentralized exchanges and lending and borrowing platforms and all these different NFT things. And on PulseChain, we have stuff like that, but we don't have near the volume and the things that really drive the gas price up are applications where there's high value and high time sensitivity. And so if there's a small window of time for you to be able to capture some spread that occurs because of, one exchange is trading at a slightly higher price than the other, and it's a race to get that slot. Those users are what drive the gas up in a big way. And so if PulseChain grows, and also, I mean, the gas prices quoted in dollars are high because on Ethereum, the price is high. So Ethereum is up 14,000x from its launch or whatever. PulseChain is up, it's at its launch price effectively. And so if PulseChain experiences an increase like that, then just the US dollar quoted value of that gas fee is going to be substantial. And then even if there's not a lot of other activity, which would be kind of bearish for PulseChain in general, just the hex stakes alone could actually be a massive just ongoing gas issue as they age, because every day that goes by, it requires a little bit more gas. That's why the max length stakes cost so much, and only 2 of them can fit per block. The amount of gas that's consumed by a max length stake is about 12 million units of gas, and there's 30 million units of gas per block. And so only two max length stakes and a 7-year stake can fit, and that would fill a block. And if you look at all the stakes that are ending at that time, there's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of stakes that are ending. And I mean, it starts to add up really around year 8. And so from what would that be, 2027 on, every single day that goes by, there's just more and more stakes ending that are each consuming more and more gas, because every day that goes by, they consume more gas. And so even just the hex stakes could drive a lot of gas problems towards the end. And so because there's not really added capacity and there's only 20% more, the block frequency is only 20% faster, that's kind of counteracted by the, things like when Icosa launched, that caused a lot of max length stakes to occur, tens of thousands. That almost counteracts all of the, any throughput increases, almost counteracted entirely by things like that. So my baseline assumption just in general is that I assume the worst case scenario. I never assume that the thing I want to happen is going to happen. I always assume it's going to be worse than what I want to happen. And so, I go on the side of that gas is going to, in the long run, gas is going to be expensive on both chains. And I don't think that it's actually, I think, going to be quite difficult for PulseChain as a layer 1 to do. It's there's almost 2 choices to make. There's the follow the Ethereum EIPs and try to benefit from the, any advancement that Ethereum makes. You either stick on that track or you go on your on its own track. Because the thing that made the hex staking so gas intensive was a change. It was an EIP that made it more expensive to do certain types of memory or storage reading and writing. And so it's people thought that was going to be just undone on PulseChain, but you can't just undo that, because that change was a prerequisite for other changes that happen after it. And
Hmm.
so there's actually a lot of sensitivity around not keeping up with that EIP track. And Ethereum seems to be going down the route of the stuff on the L1 is going to continue to get more expensive, and we're going to try to push new applications onto L2s.
Mm.
And with hex staking, because it launched and it's immutable, there's really no moving hex staking to an L2. And I don't think that, like, I think a lot of people view high gas fees that are paid as a failure on the chain's end, but it's actually an indicator of success, because it's like you in any business, you have a product that there's so much demand for that people are willing to pay a bunch for it. And they don't want to scale Ethereum so that the users' fees are low. They want to scale Ethereum so that there can be more fees collected as a whole.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't think that the Ethereum trajectory is going to make L1 application gas fees any lower. If anything, they're going to increase. And if PulseChain stays on that track where it kind of mirrors things that Ethereum rolls out, then there's almost no escaping it. PulseChain can always veer off that, but solving that is very difficult, because if you make fees cheaper, then it just attracts more applications to do stuff, or it like makes it where, so it almost gets filled anyways.
Exactly.
So maybe there's like, getting a lot of stuff to move to L2s, but it's like the thing that, at least in the PulseChain ecosystem, because there's so much crossover with Hex, there's almost no escaping the Hex, like the fee impact that just the presence of, tens or hundreds of thousands of max length Hex stakes ending every day. Not 10,000 every day, but, over the course of, a couple months, there may be tens of thousands of them at that end, especially around things like Big Payday, for instance, like 15 years after Big Payday. So I think that, right now that the gas fee isn't quite apparent, but I think that things like Pool Party are gonna make a big difference for users that stake through these pools, and the amount that you save in gas is gonna dwarf the tiny 0.5% platform fee.
Well, so I asked that, and thank you for elaborating there, because I asked that question for two purposes. Purpose one is, that's a big narrative we have in the PulseChain community. And I didn't bring this up to FUD because, like DipCatcher said, if PulseChain gas fees are as expensive as Ethereum, that's a bullish sign, guys. That means PulseChain made it, so to speak, because that means the network has activity. That means there's demand to have transactions filled, and that means that there's a lot of people using the network. So I bring it back to, if you believe PulseChain is as successful as we believe it's going to be, as the current reality exists now, we're going to have the same gas problem later on PulseChain that we have on Ethereum. So products like Pool Party will have relevance, because I've seen people ending, $100 stakes on Ethereum that have been there since day one, and they're like, $500, $1,000, and it's like they just let the stake bleed out because it's 5 to 10 times more expensive to end their stake than the principal, so it's pointless.
Yeah, and which is kind of bullish. So that's the other side of it, because, like, as is, the market's always pricing in future Hex inflation, and things that cause the Hex stakes to become infeasible to end. That's inflation that the market was previously pricing in as existing, but now that is not existing. And so that it could actually be a pretty bullish thing. It sucks for the user whose stake is infeasible to end, but that's kind of the dynamic nature of it, where and like gains are not guaranteed, and there's risk, all different types of risks involved in the stuff. And so, on one hand, it sucks, but on the other hand, at least it's bullish for the Hex price, and maybe that causes the price to appreciate, because if the price is high, then less stakes are infeasible to end, and so that can kind of solve that there as well. But yeah, it's kind of the nature of these blockchains, and like if you want permissionless, immutable, permanent data to be stored, and you want to interact with software that is unstoppable,
Comes at a price.
you gotta pay for it. So
right, you're paying a price one way or another. Either it's a little more in gas, or it's centralized entities having tyrannical overreach and suppressing your human rights. So is it a few bucks, or is it things that are going to control your reality?
yeah, and for some applications, it's totally fine to bear that centralization risk.
Sure,
Like, like if but things that are more like kind of finance that you build your life around,
yes,
you can't really tolerate that risk. But like games, maybe, and I think a lot of people, they kind of poke fun at how Solana will go down every so often, but actually, a chain going down as like a low fee solution, that's actually a totally fine solution in my opinion. Like if Solana has some capacity because it has centralized kind of operation, and sometimes they reach a capacity and it causes downtime. And if like the end result is that users can use the chain for basically free when it's on, I have no problem with that as a gas solution. Like it's actually, because you shouldn't necessarily assume that the chain is always going to be on. Like it's like blocks get propagated on like a best effort basis, and there's those incentives that encourage blocks to be created and published and all that. But the blockchain is designed to be able to sustain indefinite downtime, because it can just pick right up where it left off. And so a chain being down because of centralization that gives users who, for more fun or game type applications or small money applications, gives them low fee. Like that's actually, to me, a totally fine engineering solution.
That's an interesting way to look at it. That's the cool thing about crypto is there is a shoe that fits all sizes. So as long as as the end user what the risks are and what you're getting into, and those risks and potential gains are okay with you, well then, yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. It's like, hey, our network goes down sometimes, but as a result, you get cheap fees all the time. If that is their solution, then, and if that, then hey, people are going to build around that. People are going to build in preparation for it. This will go down. And so I hadn't heard that perspective before, and I can certainly appreciate it. And I do want to circle back real quick to wrap up Pool Party, because I do want to ask some questions about Gophers. So the name tag. So if somebody goes and gets themselves a name tag, can they use that over and over again? Can they create multiple pooled stakes under one name tag? Tell me a little bit about the name tag.
Yeah. So the name tag, it's for one stake pool. So one stake pool per name. And since these pools repeat, that name tag, it is actually effectively burnt, because the name tag stays with that stake pool contract forever. So these name tags, at least for good names, could become quite scarce over time if like good names are used for pools. And so it was done one as like there's kind of a concept that I think is kind of interesting that I've heard in like the NFT world, which is they call it soul bound NFTs.
Yes.
Basically non-transferable NFTs. So in a way, these are just non-transferable NFTs that are owned by the stake pool contract. And that I thought about making it where like the pool organizer could like reclaim the name tag. But I do like the scarcity that it bakes into those name tags, because once a name is used, it's gone. Like, and so I think that it could make the name tags more scarce for other applications that aren't related to the hex stake pooling, because these name tags, they're just normal NFTs related to words. And so there could be other use cases or other kind of collectible value related to them. And so because the name, you can only get them through these auctions, which burn party, and then the name tags themselves, if they're used in the hex stake pool, they get burnt. I kind of like that like double whammy scarcity that is introduced from that. So that's what the name tags do.
So if someone were to purchase a name tag and let's say create a 30-day hex stake pool, does that pool is just going to go every 30 days?
Mhm.
Is there an entry window and an exit window? And yeah, so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So so when you create a stake pool, there's a couple different settings that you put in. So you put in the stake length, and that doesn't change.
Okay.
And then you can put in an initial minting and redemption window. It's called the reload phase. So there's an initial one. So like when the pool first launches, so maybe you want to do it like 10 days when it first launches that people can get in. But then every time it goes around, maybe you only want to do 3 days. So you have
Okay.
your initial one, and then you have your ongoing reload phase length. And so, for instance, like base, it's the same stake pooling contract, just modified to. There are a couple of things that are modified about it, but the stake scheduling is the same. So for base, it was like a 21-day initial mint phase and then a 7-day ongoing. And so for the first 21 days, you could mint and redeem one base per one hex deposited. And then the base stake was 369 days. So during that time, there's no minting and redemption. It's just earning every day. And then when the base stake ends, the contract calculates how much hex it had earned in that whole time, and it resets the new redemption rate. And so that redemption rate from base, it earned about 12%. So it went from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1.12. So that means that one base, you could redeem 1.12 hex, or in order to mint a new base and add new hex to the pool, you had to deposit 1.12 hex to mint one base. So every time that stake ends, that redemption rate gets reset. It just ratchets up with the earnings. And then you can either mint or redeem at that rate.
Okay. So, all right. I'm going to put a pin there because I have questions about party and the rewards and all these things, but I want to show some attention to Gophers too. So I'm going to circle back and hey, if you're watching this stream and you have more questions, do what I'm going to do. I'm going to join their Telegram chat, which the link will be down in the description, and I'm going to go ask questions, and I'm going to continue to further my knowledge because I do have more tokenomics questions, and but I want to get some questions answered about Gophers too. So Gophers, to my knowledge, is an ERC-404 contract. And I've heard some, let me give my base understanding and you can elaborate. So I've heard some good and some bad. The good is, and I actually think is pretty cool, you have a NFT and a non-NFT, an ERC20, that are intrinsically tied together. And when you hold one full token, it automatically mints the NFT. And what I think is pretty cool about that is it allows you to speculate on the NFT without having to buy a full NFT. I think right now Gophers is like 900, $1,000. Congratulations, by the way. And so, like, let's say you're someone that doesn't have $1,000 to put in. Well, you could put in $200 and still speculate on the price appreciation of a full NFT. So I think that relationship in ERC-404s is really cool because, I mean, Bored Apes, when they were $60 million, I mean, if you could have had a fraction of a Bored Ape, like that would have been a really cool reality to be in. So the major negative that I've heard about ERC-404s is I believe you can like change the name and the ticker of the token or something. I guess just overall thoughts, opinions on ERC-404s, and then we'll lead that into Gophers specifically.
Yeah, so I think you touched on one of the main, I think, benefits of this is like it's not even a token standard like what ERC20 and 721 are. It's more like it's called an abstract is really but I think it is kind of clever branding, and some people got real upset that they were calling it ERC when it's not ERC.
Right.
I actually kind of like that. I kind of enjoy kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit in that sense. And so yeah, so like improved liquidity on NFTs is like a big benefit. But I think also like another major user benefit is that there's this magical experience of you go to a decentralized exchange, you buy a token, and then you go and look to see what image you got. Because when you buy it,
That's
it gives
cool.
you 1 of 6. And so I just think that like that really to me is like the secret sauce of the whole thing is that there's just kind of this compelling, like kind of, you're kind of anxiously awaiting to see what you got. And so that I think is pretty awesome. As far as like the kind of what you touched on there, like kind of the risks of the like the contract ownership. So there's a couple functions in the Gophers contract that the deployer or whomever the deployer assigns as the new owner. I think owner is a poor name that like the Open Zeppelin library uses for basically it's like like there's functions that only one address can run. And the functions that address can run, it can't mint new coins. It can't pause your coins. It can only do kind of more like operational management stuff related to it. So for instance, like one of the functions that the Gophers deployer can run is it's called whitelist. And whitelist is basically something that you run on smart contracts that are going to be holding and operating with these coins to prevent them from like having to do the whole like NFT minting and burning step. And so you basically its purpose is for decentralized exchanges or bridges, just to not trip up the bridge contract or the decentralized exchange like liquidity pool contract. And so that's one of them that the owner, the contract owner or the deployer can run. And then it also can update the name or the ticker. And that I don't know why that was kind of left in the standard. It's something that could have been removed. But that is external to the asset. Maybe with Gophers in particular, like the name and the brand is like critically important. But in terms of its operation as a coin, that actually has nothing to do with anything. And so, and if say someone wanted to disable that, then what the solution to that, if like the market viewed that risk of what I call like contract vandalism, like I try to think like what's the worst case scenario of like if like a nefarious contract owner in the ERC-404 token, like what's the worst that they could possibly do to the ecosystem. And it like the risk of those owner functions is really just vandalism. It's kind of like surface level vandalism, like, okay, change the ticker name, and so one way to that you could alleviate that risk would be to and potentially even like turn that ownership function into like a more community owned thing. You could basically build a smart contract that acts as the owner, and then you transfer ownership to that contract. And then in that contract that acts as the owner, you just remove that you don't make it able to run that, change ticker name or change the symbol. And so you could add extensions to it to kind of mitigate if those risks were, perceived as unbearable, then there's kind of like an easy solution to that. So, so that's probably, that's kind of a, it's a risk, but I guess the max downside of that risk is quite limited. And so, yeah, but I think that, there's there's a lot of good dynamics with the, that minting aspect of it and the liquidity, where like those benefits probably outweigh those risks of like that nefarious, owner. And I think really why Gophers is really latched on. I think it kind of, I think that those Gophers are adorable and they're fun and they'll have their personalities. And I think that people can actually relate a lot to each of the different unique characters. And also I think that no one would care if there wasn't like an active liquid market in these things.
Right.
If the whole purpose of these is like improved liquidity around NFTs and improved speculation around these digital collectibles, like if there's no liquid market, that sucks. And I think that the chief financial officer of Gophers, Minty Big Bank Burrower, I think that kind of the liquidity strategy that has been implemented has been
Oh, that's this.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think that is probably why we're here talking about it, because it attracted speculation, and that speculation has built up a pretty big liquidity on the buy side. There's been really thick liquidity at pretty low prices. Like most coins, when they launch, they try to keep the float, like the amount of coins available for sale, very low, so that like they can look. They're like, oh, look at the chart, it's going up so much, but it's really just like maybe $10,000 of new buying creates $10 million of paper value.
Right.
Whereas in Gophers, because like around the launch price, there's pretty thick liquid, like in the first 10x from like the launch price. And more specifically, like in the, like between about 6x and 9x, there's like really thick liquidity there. And that's where price has been trading for most of the time. No big buyers experiencing substantial slippage, and every dollar that is used to purchase it creates paper value that is realizable, because that liquidity pool is so thick. And then the CFO Minty has also been doing something called these liquidity escalations, where it's basically like as price moves through a lower range of liquidity, that liquidity, which is now in PLS, now just gets bumped up to the next range. And so like the liquidity continues to be thicker on both sides. And so I think that just like good liquidity strategy around that has been, and then that's outside of anything related to it's like the 404 part or the NFTs. Like just that alone, I think is probably a big piece of the success.
Okay. I have some follow-up questions. I need a quick 1-minute break. I'll be right back. You still got a little bit of time?
Yeah.
Okay, be right back.
Take money, then you stake money. Stake money, then you make money. Make money, then you take money. Take money. Black AC crypto, yeah, that's the new lick, bro. On ramp my fee out to see what it hit for. Came for a flip and it grew by the XO. I don't know what's next, so I keep watching head so. Foot on the gas, I ain't talking no petrol. Hope bitches say let's go, so PulseChain can explode. Locked up my ex, now I just watch it just grow. 5555 help me vibe like I'm Bezos. No counterparty, I don't rock with Tezos. We the new kids on the block like a Lego. Check the statistics, they global, not local. The price going local, got folks on they FOMO. Don't share your C phrase, you know that's a no-no. Scammers on go trying to get to your dough, bro. 5555 to it, that's for the promo. In essence for staker, got that on the logo. Take money mission, trying to stack my paper up. Stake money mission if you're trying to add it up. Wait mission if you really want it bad enough. It's a moon mission for you if you really had enough. First take money, get a water, fill it up. Then you stake money, get the app and lock it up.
Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. All right. So, okay. CFO Minty's out there. Him or her?
I think it's a girl.
The girl?
I think it's. Yeah.
Okay.
It's unclear, but I think.
Okay. All right. They're out there doing their thing. Okay. So tell me about. Okay. I actually have a question about ERC-404s in general. And I've actually, a few people have asked me this question as well. Okay, so I buy one token, one full token. I get the NFT side of it, the gopher. Now, what happens if I send my gopher to address B, or I sell half my token? What happens?
So at any time when you transact, it recalculates what your balance is. And if it goes less than 1, or like goes from like 3 to now 2 point something, then it burns your NFT. And then the recipient who received it, it calculates how much they have. If they have surpassed 1 full unit, now it mints them an NFT. And so if you send it as an ERC, like if you send it as if you're sending an ERC20, then it like will get rid of it and then mint a new one to the new user. But if you send it as an NFT, then it keeps the NFT ID and it keeps the image that it got. So it like when you send it, it almost like refreshes and it burns that. So like say you have NFT ID number 10, and then you just happen to send some gophers as an NFT or as an NFT. Okay. So then you have to send unit 10 to someone else. They keep unit 10. But if you were to just send some gophers as an ERC, that unit 10 is now burnt, goes away. And then whatever the next highest, so the IDs increment over time. Now there's just no 10. So and I think that there's some nuance to the scarcity of these things, because like the images themselves, it generates you one at random. And there's different probabilities of getting each one. Like each time that you get it, there's like 2 of them are more scarce. One of them is like, a third of all times. And so but because you can, you could just send it between wallets and recirculating and get it, but that to get whatever image you want, but the ID increments. And so the image itself isn't necessarily the scarce part. And really the way to look at it is that by having one, you actually have 6 NFTs, and then one of them is being presented at any given time, because you can always just circulate it around your own wallets and refresh the picture pretty much. It's basically as if you have all 6 of them, and only one of them is being displayed at each time. And each time you refresh, the ID that you get goes up and up and up. And so really the scarce part about it is really the low numbers. So the lowest numbers are the most scarce, like, more so than and I think that ones that are very low numbers. And if you look back in like the transaction record of like how it arrived there, having a very low number for an image that is the lower probability of receiving, and it was got on the first transaction, that is, to me, is like the scarce ones. But I mean, the scarcity, I'd say that's secondary because there's so much liquidity in the decentralized exchange, in the liquidity pool. You don't see a lot of like premium on certain individual NFTs. Basically, like the NFTs on marketplaces are basically selling for close to the same price as the ERC, and you're always going to get better execution on that. Like on average, you'll maybe someone will be able to put in a highball order that they sell for more, but like as an NFT. But the decentralized exchange, I think, is probably the more liquid place. I mean, that's where the overwhelming majority of all trading happens.
Okay, so I think it finally clicked. So let's say I go on the DEX and I buy 5 Gopher tokens. I'm going to get 5 Gopher NFTs. So, but it's going to give me those NFTs in increasing order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I were to, let's say, send 1 Gopher token, it's going to remove NFT 1.
5.
Oh, it's going to go, it goes descending.
First in, last out.
Oh, okay.
That's just it's by design. Like you can, if you really want to read the solidity, they explain why that it's there, but it's basically to like to help maintain that lowest number that you ever got.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, so
that's actually cool.
It's first in, last out. So if you sent, so you say you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you sent some as an ERC20, so it like did the refresh. now that person has number 6, and there's now no longer number 5.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so then let's say I send or sell the NFT side, it's going to remove one token as well from my wallet.
Yeah, they get sent together.
I see.
Because it's like, and this is probably like way kind of deep in the, it's like there's never tokens and there's never NFTs. All there is just a record in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that record, it is interpreted from things that read ERC-20 contracts as a balance. And it reads from things that interpret NFT contracts as like a token ID and an owner. And so that's why it kind of has compatibility with things that are for ERC-20s and for NFTs, is because from the whatever contract is interacting with the coin's perspective, it's kind of both at the same time. And so it's like a single record keeping system that updates its NFT side of it and its ERC-20 side of it at the same time. So like the balance of function that you would read when you're reading it, like your ERC-20 balance, that's being updated based on the transfers and the and I guess another kind of key, not key detail from user doesn't need to know this, but maybe like a wallet, and this might be relevant to you guys is that when you transfer it as an NFT, it's actually the same function. Like the actual transfer function itself is the same. It's wrapped in the ERC, 721 or ERC-20 transfer, but it's actually when it's being transferred, the way that it determines to send it as an NFT or ERC-20 is actually like in the amount that you transfer, and that's why there's 18 decimals, is because the really low, in order to send, say you have NFT ID number 10, then the way you send that number 10 is that when you call the transfer function, it's sending in the amount, the value that's passed in there is, if you're thinking, it's just 10, but when you're sending one full unit as an ERC-20, the value passed in is 1 followed by 18 zeros.
Mm-hmm.
So those functions are actually tightly related, and it's based on if you call it with a really small number or you call it with a number that's padded by the 18 zeros. And if you call it by the really small number, it's referencing the NFT ID. If you call it by the number that's padded by the zeros, like from that decimal, like the amount of decimals or number of zeros behind the decimal, then it's sent as an ERC. So it's actually those NFT transfer and the ERC transfer are actually very tightly related in terms of how it does the accounting on what NFT you have or how many tokens you have. And so that's why it actually is, it's almost like it's just an accounting system that displays its like end result in a way that NFT contracts and interfaces can interpret it, and ERC-20 contracts and interfaces can interpret it.
That I can see the ERC-404 having a viable place in the future of crypto. To have these things intrinsically tied I think is great. And you brought up the internet money wallet. Currently, you can, like, the Gopher token side of it, fully operable in the wallet. Of course, you can swap it in the wallet. You can send, receive it. Like it's functioning completely normal. We are currently integrating NFT functionality into the wallet. So I'm curious to see and do testing with Gophers with that side of things. So I wonder, and I'm sure there will be, because software just loves to be this way. I'm sure it'll have its little quirks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to see how, for instance, here's an actual question. If I go buy a Gopher token and I get my NFT side of it minted to me, do I import that as a user, do I import that into my wallet the same way I would any other NFT?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there, so just NFT contract, NFT ID, that Gopher is going to pop right up in my
Yep.
wallet. Wow.
Mhm.
What a
Yeah,
cool
it has the
concept.
same. It has the same like metadata structure as like what you'd expect from like really from any NFT. So like in the metadata it has like the image URL, it has the name, it has just whatever information is packed in that metadata field. So yeah, and that's kind of like the way that they designed the 404 not protocol, but 404 library. Really, it's a library. Is that it like just to make seamless compatibility with existing ERC20 interfaces and ERC721 interfaces. Like it just worked. Like if you like you can look at it on like MetaMask. Like it just even just worked on. I didn't think MetaMask had to do anything for that. OpenSea just displayed everywhere. It just displayed.
Man, that's, you know what? There's obviously some controversy around the protocol, the library, but kudos to the team who invented that. That's pretty dang cool. I'm gonna give it to them. That's some
It's
cool.
awesome. And I was actually like the reason why I was so kind of keen to this concept was because with that name tag NFT thing I was talking about before, I had been looking into kind of like different ways to blend ERC20 and NFT on its own. So like because the way that those name tags are emitted, it's the pool party contract, which is an ERC20 contract, which governs the minting of that ERC721. So they're different contracts, but it's like they're kind of related in that the auctions that happen with the ERC20 party token are what govern the emission of the NFTs. And so but I had attempted to build that system using another kind of NFT slash it's called ERC1155, which does both like where in a single contract you can have numerous different assets that are all under the same contract address. Some of them are fungible, some of them are non-fungible, and then there's another category of these semi-fungible, which is really just fungible. So I had attempted to build a pool party system where all the stake pools were under the same contract address and all the NFTs were under the same contract address and the party token itself was on the same one. But I ended up not doing that because that would have introduced a lot of pretty big sweeping changes to the stake pool contract, which had already been like proven with base and people were already familiar with that. And so I didn't want to introduce too many changes to that side, but I had spent a considerable amount of time, trying to build on this kind of like ERC1155, which is both like NFTs and normal tokens in the same contract. So I'd already spent a lot of time kind of thinking around this premise of single contract that has both ERC20 and NFT functionality. And so in 404, when I saw that, I was like no brainer. Like so I was already like my mind was already accepting of this concept because I was had spent time doing something that was not exactly what it is, but kind of related.
So, hey, look, if you think it, you shall create it. So, okay, let me ask another question as well. If you have a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like we have a question in the chat that we'll get to in just a moment, but tell me about the hotel Gopherfornias. I know that the Gopher holders will like to hear about that, and I understand that there might have been Minty, I don't remember, but there may be some entity that is going to possibly be pulling Gophers off the market and sending them to the hotel in which they can never leave.
Yeah. So basically, there's a scheduled roof pull. So a lot of cryptos they pull the rug, but Gophers, since the only rule of Gophers is that you shall expect 10 gazillion% returns solely from the work of the Gopher executive board. They have announced a roof pull, which is the opposite of a rug pull. A rug pull is where they send the price to zero by pulling out all the buy side in the liquidity pool. but a roof pull is where you pull out all the sell side. And so the way that that's going to work is sometime at any time this week, the Gopher, so Minty, the CFO, manages the kind of launch liquidity pool. So that's how Gophers launched, was that all the coins are just put in a liquidity pool, the V3 pool, and then the market just kind of took it from there. And so starting at some point this week, no one knows when except for Minty, the Gophers in that are for sale in the liquidity pool are just going to start being pulled and then burnt. But there's no burn function in the ERC-404 contract. And so the way that burn happens is that they're actually just sent to a contract with no functions. So those Gophers can go into the contract, but then there's no functions to ever do anything with them. So they're effectively burnt because once they enter the contract, there's no way for them to leave. And so what this is it's just a way to kind of bake in more scarcity to Gophers. And it's just kind of like like if you want to call the last couple of weeks of Gophers is like the launch phase. It's just like, okay, the max supply has been created, and the max supply will be whatever the amount of Gophers that are held by users other than the liquidity position that Minty manages. So if there's a lot of buying, then, say all the Gophers are purchased and the price goes to, the liquidity range goes from current price to like 1,000x or something. It's really high. So if all of the Gophers are purchased, then not many get burned. But if, right now I think there's, let's take a look at the Gophers.
So what is the total supply of Gopher token?
10,000.
And so
on both
10,000 each.
Yeah.
Okay. So best case scenario, worst case scenario, however you want to identify it.
So
there could only be 10,000 NFTs max.
Yeah.
Which won't happen because people will be buying fractions.
Yeah. And some people, yeah, exactly. Like some people buy. So if everyone bought 1.1, then that would mean there would only be 9,000 possible because, right. If my math's right on that. And so, so right now, as is, there is on PulseChain, there are 5,224 Gophers in the liquidity position. There are some other liquidity providers other than Minty, but the vast majority, I mean, I'm looking, there's a handful that are they're user owned, not Minty owned. So as is, like if this just happened right now, which it could, we don't know when it's gonna happen. Like it could happen while we're sitting here on the stream.
It did.
Then that would mean that the total supply of Gophers would be 4,776 because 10,000 minus 5,224.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So gotcha. So that you're saying if the roof pool burns all of the liquidity position.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so that's that's kind of the premise. It's going from a time where kind of what I was talking about earlier, where there was really thick liquidity kind of in this launch range. That really thick liquidity is, call that like a thick liquidity holiday. I think in Richard's words, that the bridge fee holiday. It's kind of like there's a low slippage holiday going on right now, and that's going to come to an end. And then from there on, the only Gophers that will exist are the ones that users had purchased from the liquidity pool. And then from there, the market can just price in the new reality, which is that instead of there being 10,000 units available in the supply, there's now X out, whatever's left. And not only did the total supply decrease, but the amount that's actually in the liquidity pool has decreased. And so now each new buyer coming in has a larger impact on the price than before. So it's kind of like just like it's kind of like a halvening in a way, where like there's like if you consider because there's so much Gophers in the liquidity pool, a lot of it is at prices that have never been hit, and so those coins went straight from being minted at launch to then being in that liquidity pool, And so if you consider that to be inflation, because, circulating supply inflation, because, you'd say it's not circulating now, and then as price hits it, then it becomes circulating.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like that circulating supply inflation is being drastically reduced, like basically taken to zero.
Mm.
So from there, I think is an awesome idea, because I think this could cement Gophers as this like really scarce kind of historic collectible. It's like the first ERC-404 on PulseChain. It was like probably the third or fourth ERC-404 on Ethereum.
Mm.
It's been the second most liquid one on Ethereum. It's by far the most liquid one on PulseChain. It's, I think, the only one that launched on 2 chains at once under the same contract address. So it's kind of got this like dual chain essence to it. And so I think that there's a lot of historic factors that can kind of play into this, and with like a big, supply shock happening where the supply that the market can then price in is now being drastically reduced. And something that completely unrelated to supply aspects that is going to happen to Gophers soon too, which is so funny. It's really great. I can't wait for it. I think Gophers can cement itself as this like kind of, historic asset.
Tell me about it. What are you referring to?
I'll leave that for. I'm just the Gophers janitor, so I'm not allowed to be announcing these things.
Understood.
It's so funny.
I hear you.
So funny. It's excellent. It's gonna be great.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, and I'm excited to hear the announcement. I'll keep ear to it. Yeah, so I'm looking here at the charts for, this is Gophers on Ethereum,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Gophers on PulseChain. There's a slight premium on PulseChain, right? It's about $50 less, but still the chart shape is basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's a little more dippage there on Ethereum, but question. So we know you're sticky on PulseChain. We know a lot of people are talking about it. Things are great. What about Ethereum? Are you getting any good reception from the Ethereum community? Is it, like outside the Ethereum community that's not shared with the PulseChain community? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of volume, like more so in the first couple days, and then there is a platform that does stuff with like I don't want to announce it until it's like actually set and actually happens, but there's a pretty cool like platform that wants to add support for Gophers.
Oh, really? Nice.
On Ethereum. It's like a trading thing for it, but which hasn't happened yet. So I'm assuming it's not going to happen. But like the guy who runs it said that he wanted to add it. So so a little bit. I think that a lot of new people, like I asked people who had bought Gophers, I put out a poll and asked like who knew about me before this, and about 40% of people said they hadn't. So
wow,
sort of like reaching new users and new audiences. I think that it has been pretty effective as far as like kind of big Ethereum adoption. I assume it's a lot of overlap, and on the Ethereum side, I think like because if you look at the charts and so I look, when I look at the charts, I click on the thing where you can toggle between quoting it in dollars or quoting it in wrap pulse and quoting it in like wrapped ETH. Those ones actually look almost identical. The ETH one is I think the ETH one is higher, partially because there was a kind of a big sell the news event on the because the Gophers holders as of the 16th got a pool party airdrop. So there was a lot of buying into that and then some sell the news. And it was just more drastic on PulseChain because most people that were doing that were good, were just on PulseChain versus Ethereum. So Ethereum had a little bit less of that like big move up and then sell the news from that event. And then now that the go like this roof pull. It's going to happen on both chains, and so I think that Gophers on Ethereum has been appreciating higher because there's more on the Ethereum side that could possibly burn. So like as is, like if it was to happen right now, the Gophers on Ethereum would be more scarce than the Gophers on PulseChain. So I think that's kind of playing into that as well.
Well, and to your point too about there being a lot of crossover, it's cool to hear that poll. But even if there was 100 people that were introduced, like you're doing something very innovative and you're on the front lines of this brand new thing and you're doing it yourself. And so, and by yourself, I mean, you're physically clacking the keys and doing the research and bringing the thing to life. And so I think that you obviously deserve more recognition from the Ethereum community. And I hope that we can get the word out, because I've heard of, what was that? The original 404, like Pandora or something like, yeah. And so that one obviously blew up, but man, I've heard of other 404s out there that are like getting exploited, or they're just not sticky, or they're not being launched right, deployed right, whatever. And so for you to have created a very success is obviously subjective, but what I would consider a successful ERC-404 project in terms of adoption, obviously the support price wise. And I mean, look at this is the Wrap Pulse. You're at all-time high for Wrap Pulse and nearly an all-time high for Wrapped ETH. So you're having awesome price appreciation. The tech is working as intended. You have more coming down the line. I think the Hotel Gopherfornia, I think with what you have, what Minty has planned there, I think can be very powerful, because like you said, you are reducing the inflation. Oh, I'm off camera. Inflation, which it is inflationary to a degree, but still, people would have had buy them. So it's not necessarily like, oh, Bitcoin just coming into the market. So there's a little dynamic there, but the fact that you are removing the supply. And so this is going to ultimately, I'm going to ask this in a form of a question. So obviously when you have less Gophers in the pool and you have the same amount of Wrapped Pulse or Wrapped ETH in the pool, if somebody goes to buy Gophers, it's going to have a greater positive price impact, because I won't even say because, greater positive price impact. But then if they go to sell Gophers, it's not going to have as much of a negative price impact. It's going to positively affect the inverse, right?
Yeah, because I mean, if we take CFO Minty's actions in the past, where she has been moving liquidity from these lower so a lot of the liquidity that was in between like 1 and 3 million Wrapped Pulse, since price had moved through it started as Gophers. Now it's Wrapped Pulse in that liquidity position. That liquidity started to work its way up the line through a combination of just adding new liquidity positions on the buy side. So just putting in like a buy wall in there and just smashing that market buy button. So if that activity continues, of now there's suddenly less supply on top for sale, and those liquidity escalations kind of continue in a responsible way, because I think that there's certain, like those liquidity escalations, there's certainly risk involved in that. Like, what if people just sell all into it, and then it reduces the ability to continue those. And so I think that they have been spaced out pretty well. That I think it's good stewardship of that liquidity. So I think that removing the sell side from the equation, but if those buy side liquidity escalations continue, that I think could kind of, carry this thing forward. And then with new buyers coming in, because that's like the real amplifier of all this is like, new buyers entering the ecosystem. Because I mean, right now you see that there on your screen, there's about $2.6 million of buy side liquidity between the two of them.
Which is, I mean, for a Pulse, like on PulseChain, we have, okay, so you have a total of 7.6 million in liquidity, but you have 2.1 million of that liquidity in Pulse. That's a number, especially for the PulseChain ecosystem. There are not many tokens that are as liquid on the PLS side in the millions. So I would say that, at least from my colloquial knowledge, right? I'm not saying this is proven with stats on a website. This is just what I've observed. I would say that this would put Gophers in probably the top 10% of liquid assets on PulseChain.
I think it's
and
like number 4 after Pulse, PulseX, Hex, and maybe number 5. Pulse, basically Richard's coins.
Wow.
And maybe the stables, like the wrapped ETH or something. But yeah, it's definitely up there.
That in and of itself is an accomplishment. And then on Ethereum, you're at about $500,000, which is still, again, reasonable, a real number. Question: have you guys reached out to CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko? Like, are they listing this type of stuff?
So we applied on both of them. CoinMarketCap sent back an email saying, pay $5,000 and we'll get your thing going.
Very nice.
Which could happen. I honestly have no problem paying. I've kind of busy with other things, so I have no problem paying that. Then CoinGecko actually denied the listing and said try again in 2 weeks. I don't know if I don't know why. I really don't know why. I don't know if it's the name.
I mean, maybe.
So, I don't know. We'll have to see if anything's changed from that. They said that sometimes they deny them, and then they said to try again in 2 weeks, and then because maybe it's the site saying, like the first line on the site just saying, by participating, you must expect 10 gazillion% returns. So like, I don't know, who knows, maybe they didn't get the joke, but it's also not a joke. It's also not like it's a joke, but not a joke. So who really knows why, but yeah, we're trying to get it listed there. And I think, by now it's almost 3 weeks old and the liquidity is only growing, and
this is healthy liquidity.
Yeah.
On Ethereum, 500,000. That is healthy liquidity. Congratulations to you and the team. I'm sure you are.
What that means is that, say there suddenly everyone's like, okay, Gopher's bad. Not a single person buys anymore, and everyone just sells. What that means is that on average, users would like per user, they'd get back like around like 80 or 90% of their funds. So, some people get much more if you bought low and then you're the first. It all depends on the order in which you sold. But the amount that, like, if all users decided to suddenly just sell, people would actually do on average just fine. If you're the last guy to sell and you had bought the top, your performance would be worse. But like if everyone was just randomly like ordered and then they all sold, then the average person would be, I'll have to recalculate because it changes as the liquidity changes. But
of course,
the amount that like the user can reclaim from selling, assuming no new buyers, is actually quite high.
And that's very important. It's important to have a liquid asset for money moving in and out. And, $500,000 and $2.1 million on PulseChain, I'm sure at this point supports your average or upper tier buyer. Because like on PulseChain especially, I mean, someone can come in for $100,000, $200,000. Sure, they're going to experience some slippage, but it's going to support the price. Just like on Ethereum, maybe somebody could come in for 30 to 50 grand. They're going to experience some slippage, but it's still going to support that. And that's important, being able to support those things. And I actually have a question here, going back a little, remove this. Somebody says, is there a way to track the Gophers number rankings?
So I think if you look at the 9mm NFT Explorer, it shows all of them, and you can kind of track it that way. In terms of like that, like low ranking, that's pretty good idea to add to something like the Gophers wallet site or something. But maybe try looking at any of the existing NFT display stuff, and that can maybe give you a sense of of those.
Well, with us doing our NFT support in the Internet Money Wallet, we'll make special note of that and see if there's anything we have to do to get that displayed in there.
Speaking of Internet Money, we added, so for the first time ever on the Pool Party DApp, we added the Wallet Connect thing.
Let's go.
I had historically just been using like a pure MetaMask one, and it was mainly because in the Wallet Connect documentation, the version for like just vanilla JavaScript, it just, for some reason I couldn't get it to work. But they had recently updated their docs and had more specific instructions for how to get the just like vanilla Java, because I build on Anvil, which is, it's Python, but it's basically it's really just vanilla JavaScript. And so if you have like a any type of library or package that is just JavaScript, you can use it. And so just from Wallet Connect improving their documentation, I was actually able to get it working in a way that I hadn't before. And so it was actually very easy to integrate, and we're never going back. It's like, I'm very glad that we have this. It was a great improvement, and I'm glad that was like the prompt that the Internet Money users who are eligible for the airdrop was a good prompt for kind of making me do that, which I had tried, and then I neglected. The next time I looked, the documentation on Wallet Connect was better, and so it works great.
Well, I will say thank you for doing it. I know there was obviously more global reasons than just for Internet Money users, but I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I can't claim my party airdrop," and so that was awesome to see. And it's cool because look, MetaMask is a great wallet. There's some philosophical conundrums that we may not agree with, and they don't really support PulseChain all that well, but they paved the way. But Wallet Connect, what's great about it is basically every wallet that isn't MetaMask not every wallet, but most wallets rely on Wallet Connect. And so you've just not only opened the door for Internet Money, you've opened the door for, I think there's like 100 other wallets or something like that on Wallet Connect, which is, so even if there's 2 users there, you've opened the door for them, which is, I'm glad to see you did that.
Yeah, definitely game changer there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So yeah, if you wanted to connect Internet Money to the Pool Party DApp, Connect Wallet, all wallets, and you can just search Internet Money. I take it. Yep, right there.
Nice.
Except
the way I was doing it, I was just clicking the Wallet Connect one, and then I would just scan the QR code I would open up the QR code scanner in Internet Money and just scan that one.
Nice. Oh, from the mobile, right?
Yeah, from mobile.
Yeah, so that will work for mobile, and if you're on Chrome, you can do all wallets. Yeah, so I'm gonna do some later once we get off stream. I have a few more questions I'm gonna ask in your Telegram chat, but I'm gonna do some minting over here of the Hex pooled stake. So it's really cool. I want to support what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Cool. So I am gonna have to. I'm getting on Crypto Coffee stream here in about 5 minutes. But
oh wow,
dude,
okay,
this was awesome. The time just flew. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great discussion.
Likewise, good luck on Crypto Coffee. There's so much more nuance to get into. I'm gonna wrap up the stream for those still sticking around. But DipCatcher, thanks for all your work, brother. Good luck on coffee, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. See you later.
Wow. Okay. So we covered a lot of information there. Then there is still so much more to uncover. We just scratched the surface. So if you're somebody who's curious to learn more about Pool Party and the pooled hex staking and all the tokenomics around it, like I said earlier, join their Telegram chat, which I will put that link in the description, where you can ask all the questions that you may have. I know that I'm going to have to do it because I want to learn more. I want to engage in all of these DeFi plays and DeFi opportunities. And we, as a product, Internet Money Wallet, we are, there's a perfect what I'm going to speak to. If I get one whole Gophers, where can I view the NFT? If you're an Internet Money Wallet user, you can connect to one of these marketplaces that are on PulseChain or on Ethereum. You can use OpenSea, or like DipCatcher said, you can look at the 9mm NFT Block Explorer, or I think they support NFTs displaying on their Block Explorer. That'd be a good question that I'll ask 9mm and find out. But very soon, you're not going to have to go anywhere external. Right now, actively, we are working on NFT support in-app on the Internet Money Wallet. Let me clarify what that means. Right now, if you're an Internet Money user, you can interact with NFT dApps. You can mint, your pool party name tags. You can do everything that you need to do with NFTs. The one thing that you can't do currently is physically view them in-app, but we're going to overcome that very soon. So if you're an NFT person and you're an Internet Money user, stand by. We're going to have support for them very soon in-app. And with that, I hope that everybody watching today did get a little bit, at least if you dipped your toes in, hopefully you learned a little more. We learned about the Uni V3 liquidity position coolness that's coming with Hotel Gopherfornia. I'm interested to see how that experiment plays out, with the roof pool. It's the first roof pool that I've ever seen. So we'll see how that goes. And make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, give DipCatcher a follow on Twitter, follow the Internet Money Telegram. We're always here learning in the Internet Money community while we're on this DeFi journey, navigating these DeFi waters. And if you have 2 minutes, stick around. We're going to play the Internet Money Anthem. It's got philosophy. It's got the beats. It's got the vibes. It's made by our friend Base God. And don't ever be afraid to do your own research. This is what it looks like. Asking the hard questions. Maybe even making yourself look silly if you don't know the answers. It's okay. 3 rules of crypto. Let me load up, and I'm going to say it before we drop out. Rule number 1, not your keys, not your coins. If that doesn't make sense to you, take no further steps. Rule number 2, never FOMO. Don't FOMO in, don't FOMO out. If it's a real project with real staying power, it will be here tomorrow. Take your time, do your own research, not financial advice. Rule number 3, don't trust, verify. In crypto, people are going to tell you all kinds of things. Hear them, learn from them, but verify what they say. How do you verify? You ask the hard questions. You speak to your community of people that you do know and trust. And if it's something you are seriously considering and don't know how to verify yourself, if it's open source code, like the Internet Money Wallet, like everything we build, you can hire somebody you trust to analyze our code and verify everything we say. My name is KG. I am the founder of InternetMoney.io, where we are freeing your time and supporting the inalienable human right of financial freedom and self-sovereignty. And until next time, peace.
What is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is more than just money. Cryptocurrency is a lifestyle, a philosophy, an ecosystem, the means by which human beings to attain financial freedom, not just in the sense of multiplying their investment, but giving humans the ability to interact with money in any way that they see fit. And if that way doesn't already exist, that's the beauty of crypto, is you can create it. And that's what we've done here. Internet money is the future. Internet money is the future. What is internet money, you ask? Well, it's just that.